Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Hidden Variables, the podcast where we explore interesting people from all walks of life and their fascinating stories, those people who are making a positive impact on our world. I'm so excited to introduce you to an extra special guest today, Reinerio or Rey Hernandez. Rey is a prominent figure in the study of consciousness and paranormal phenomena. He graduated with honors from Rutgers College, pursued a master's at Cornell University, and was a Ph.D. candidate at the University of California, Berkeley, where he received a National Science Foundation Ph.D. fellowship. Before March 4th, 2012, Rey had no interest in topics related to consciousness or the paranormal. However, on that date, he and his wife experienced a remarkable event. An energy being appeared in their living room and healed their paralyzed dog, whom they had planned on euthanizing that very day. This incident led Rey to explore various paranormal experiences, which he refers to as the contact modalities, including near-death experiences, or NDEs, out-of-body experiences, or OBEs, unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, or what he has termed Conscious Arial Phenomena, CAPs, and encounters with spirits. Rey is the director of the Consciousness and Contact Research Institute, CCRI, an academic research association comprising over 25 PhD academics, medical doctors, and researchers. CCRI aims to explore a new paradigm that integrates findings from consciousness research with the phenomenology of extraordinary experiences, collectively termed the contact modalities. Previously, Rey co-founded the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial and Extraordinary Experiences, or FREE, an academic research foundation that conducted the first comprehensive multilingual study on UFO contact experiences. This study surveyed over 4,300 individuals from more than 100 countries, revealing data that challenges the mainstream materialist perspective in ufology. The findings are detailed in the 820-page book, Beyond UFOs, The Science of Consciousness and Contact with Non-Human Intelligence, which Rey co-edited. Rey has authored many books, including a series titled A Greater Reality, The New Paradigm of Non-Local Consciousness, the Paranormal, and the Contact Modalities, and The Mind of God, a Spiritual Virtual Reality Model of Consciousness and the Contact Modalities. These incredible works aim to provide an academic framework connecting consciousness with various paranormal experiences. In addition to his research and writing, Rey has appeared in media productions such as Beyond UFOs, The Science of Consciousness and Contact with Non-Human Intelligence, and an upcoming exciting film, A Greater Reality. Rey Hernandez's journey from a materialist perspective to exploring the depths of consciousness and paranormal phenomena highlights his commitment to understanding these complex subjects and helping others in their understanding as well. Rey will be speaking about all of this at the Contact Modalities Expo coming up in Delavan, Wisconsin, May 2nd through 4th, as the masthead of this incredible event, named with the term that he actually coined, Contact Modalities. Along with me and incredible group of experts, teachers, and thought leaders in this field. We have so much to talk about, so let's stop gabbing and welcome Rey to the show. Rey, welcome to the show. It is so good to have you here today.
Thank you, Debs. I've never had an introduction like that. That was unbelievable. Thank you.
Well, and it's so funny because when you read, for the audience who isn't as familiar with you as I am, when you read your CV, it is, or your bio, it is just, it's pages and pages long because you have amassed this huge body of work. really just since the 2012 experience. That doesn't say anything about your other work in your life that you did for many decades that is also really, that took a lot of your life and effort. But this is the thing that just is incredible. I want to start by just saying your journey into the non-ordinary began in a really extraordinary way. Could you take us just briefly back to that pivotal moment that set you on this path toward the greater reality, Ray?
Surely, it literally was the Big Bang. It was my whole worldview was totally destroyed in an instant. And then my journey since then, since March, was trying to understand what happened to me. As a background, as you read my bio, I went to a lot of elite universities for advanced degrees. After that, I then became an attorney. And in the intermediary stage, I had a lot of jobs as the director of the Office of Environmental Quality for the city of New York. I was the founder of an environmental program at the City University of New York. So I've had a very wide and diverse background. And for the last 23 years, I worked as an estate tax attorney for the Department of Treasury. I audited the estates of millionaires and billionaires, which was extremely boring job, but it was mentally draining because you had these very powerful law firms that represented these millionaires and billionaires, and I was on the other side. So and then out of the blue, on March 4th, 2012, my wife and I had an experience that totally changed us. And that was, our dog had been very ill for several years. She was 15 years old, and then she wasn't running, she wasn't jumping. We were giving her lots of medications to keep her alive. And then one evening, she became paralyzed from the neck down. She could only bark. She could move her neck a little bit, but the rest of her body was paralyzed. So then I called our friend, veterinarian, Dr. Phil Cruz, and we had made an appointment to put her to sleep the next day, Sunday. And so my wife, who's a hardcore Catholic, born and raised in Mexico, began praying all night. And me, as a good atheist, I said, you could pray all the hell you want, but nothing's going to happen. And so lo and behold, the next day when we woke up, I won't go into the full details of it because it's quite lengthy of what occurred. But basically this object appeared to my wife. She then was calling me, and I was, I didn't want to go downstairs. It was Sunday morning at 6 o'clock. So she went upstairs. She hauled me out of bed. She wouldn't tell me what it was. And then once we got down to the first floor, she disappeared right in front of me and our dog. And then instantaneously, my mind was overtaken by some other type of intelligence that totally controlled my thoughts. And I didn't care that my wife disappeared. And then the dog disappeared. I turned to the left, and there was what I now call an energy being about 6 to 8 feet in front of me, very, very close. And then I looked at it, and well, let me describe it. It was roughly 2.5 feet wide, about 1.5 feet in height. It was floating about 4 feet off the ground. It was semi-transparent, and it was full of energy, multicolored energy. It was waving like a desert mirage, like this. And then rectangular in shape, but it didn't have any edges because it was pure energy. So what I'm about to tell you is even more incredible. I looked at that object, I waved my hand at it, and I said, this is bullshit. This is what she got me up for this crap. I turned around and I walked upstairs, and I was immediately put to sleep. And that's not logical, okay?
No,
But
no.
I didn't realize at that time that I was under some type of, for lack of a better term,
Influence.
I was hypnotized where I couldn't think. My mind was totally controlled, so I couldn't think rationally properly. And about an hour later, when I woke up, I was now fully conscious, and I was like, "Holy, what? What the
Yeah.
hell was that?" And I ran downstairs, and then poof, my wife pops, my wife pops back into reality, and the dog, I seen the living room is running around the entire living room.
The dog's
Okay.
running around.
And the Big Bang. I was like running around and jumping because we had a split level floor, and she would be like jumping like woo into that level of the floor, and my wife was grabbing her, picking her up, putting her down, and hallelujah, hallelujah, the angels cured her, the angels cured her, and so needless to say, you're speechless after something like this. And I was like,
I imagine.
first time in my life, I was totally speechless. And then when I composed myself, I asked my ex-wife, I asked her, where were you at the time? It's 7 o'clock. It's at 6.
Wow.
Where were you for that hour? She said, I didn't go anywhere.
No.
Insisting that she didn't go anywhere. So she had basically an hour of missing time.
Mhm.
And then, so we shared our stories. We drew what we saw, and we saw 2 different objects. She saw more of a upside down U that was physical, but then it would be phasing in and out of reality. It would become transparent and almost disappear, and then it would become very physical again, like a silverish color, like metallic type of color. But it was phasing in and out of reality. And when I just described what I saw. And so there's a lot of information here. So let me just jump forward.
Sure.
I then went to the internet, and I still didn't know that this was UFO related. So I was just on YouTube, studying the paranormal, the paranormal this, paranormal that, until about 2.5 months later, the dog woke my ex-wife up at 3:30 in the morning. She went outside thinking that the dog needed to go to the bathroom. And so she heard this large noise, this very loud noise. She then looked up, and it was this huge object. It was cylinder in shape. It had colors on its edges.
Wow.
And so that morning she tells me, oh, my angels came and visited me, And I said, what are you talking about? Did it have wings? What did it look like? And because I'm thinking of the stereotypical angel.
Traditional,
and then
yeah.
she described it and she drew it. And I was like, and I said, well, you saw a UFO. You saw a UFO. She goes, oh, no, they were my angels. You're just an atheist. You wouldn't understand, And so from that day on, I knew that I suspected that this was UFO related. Okay. So then I began ordering books on UFOs on the internet. It was all UFO this, UFO that. And that lasted for about 3 additional months until August of 2012, when I was outside my house in the evening. It's about 9, because I was going to do a motion for him to bring to court. And once there's an attorney in the family or friends, everybody comes to you for help, So I volunteered to do this thing for him, and he didn't show up. And so I then said, what the hell? Let's give it a try. I saw this man, Prophet Yahweh, a few days ago called down a UFO. My wife has been calling down UFOs because she's been calling down tons of them after that first experience. And so I said, let's give it a try. And in the very beginning, I was not very interested in it. It was just killing time. But then I got more emotional from it.
Yes.
After 15 minutes, I became deeply passionate because our dog was like our daughter. Um, and so I wanted to thank it. I wanted to give it my love and to thank this intelligence behind it. And so what happened later on was that it seemed like I had been communicating with this intelligence for a long time. And let me explain it. Within 15 minutes of me calling down the UFO intelligence that my wife saw, this huge object appeared right on top of me. And it was 100 feet high by 600 feet back in depth. And it was a
Wow.
huge object, but it wasn't physical. It was comprised of hundreds of oblong streaks of light. The first segment of whirling energy. Okay. And so then I heard a voice. It was my daughter's voice. Daddy, you and mommy have seen UFOs. Next time you guys see a UFO, you call me, Daddy. Don't forget. Don't forget. So I turned around because I'm thinking that my daughter's right behind me. And she wasn't there. And so I ran to the window and I called her. And then she ran outside and she joined me outside. What is that, Daddy? I said, sweetheart, it's a huge object. The tail end of it was right on top of a major highway. It's like a 6-lane highway. It's about 4 blocks from my house. That's how huge this thing was. It was very low to the ground. The bottom of it, palm trees were covering up the bottom of it. Okay.
Wow.
In
So it
front
was
of my
really
next door
low.
neighbor's house. It was right next door.
Yeah.
So then later I realized that I never said anything to my daughter. My wife never said anything to my daughter about UFOs. Okay. And plus, I'd never seen any UFOs before. This is my very first one. And so later on, I realized that this intelligence has the ability to download information from the Akashic records of my daughter's communication, re-scramble that communication like a editor, okay, like a sound editor, and then repackage it to the voice that I heard, and then download it to me as a telepathic communication. Okay.
Yep.
So that's the first thing I learned from that particular experience. Now let me take you through that experience. My daughter and I are watching it, and it was just these hundreds of oblong streaks of light that was swirling around. Okay. And then the bottom of it, the bottom portion of it, I could have gotten a rock and hit the bottom of that. That's how close and huge this was.
Jeez.
And it was semi-transparent. You could see the clouds behind it. Okay. And then all of a sudden, my friend comes with his wife and their 17-year-old daughter. So they leave the car right in the middle of the cul-de-sac and they run to where I'm at with my daughter and say, Ray, what is that? What is that? I said, you know damn well what it is. It can't be. And so I didn't tell them that I called it down because that would have been too much for them to absorb.
Sure.
And then they began to try to explain it away. Okay. After like 2 minutes of them trying to explain it away, I busted out laughing. Now, this is the interesting part that I still don't know why I did this to this day. Okay. But basically, I communicated to this intelligence telepathically. I said, you better, and this is literally, it had a little cuss word in there. Is that okay? Okay. Telepathically, I conveyed to them, you better come up with some better bullshit than this because my friends don't believe you. Okay. I don't know why I did that. Okay. I just did it. Okay. And then immediately what we were watching disappeared. And then almost instantaneously, a new object was projected. And let me describe this new object. It was comprised of approximately 50 large orbs. Okay, the size of a Volkswagen Beetle. Okay, all of them were blinking on and off, on and off, on and off. So it's this huge light show in the sky. And then one orb at a time would be powering up and then powering down. And then another one would power up and power down. But all of them were like this, on and off, on and off, on and off. Okay. It was very low to the ground. The top portion of it was much lower than that oblong streaks of light. Okay. This is like right on top of us. And then it was still about maybe 100 meters in width, because these were large objects, you know, and but very low to the ground. And again, the palm tree blocked some of these orbs. That's how low it was. The bottom orb was like maybe 3 feet from the roof of the house.
Wow.
Okay. And then
That's close.
My friends stopped, very close. My friends stopped talking about it. Okay. Because you couldn't explain this away.
Right.
And then what I learned from that experience is that the UFO phenomenon is actually a holographic projection. Okay. What you were watching initially was not real. It was a projection. You are seeing it physically as real, and your mind thinks of it as real. But in a blink of an eye, what we were watching was deleted and replaced by something else. Now, this object of this concept of a holographic projection, many years later, once I began doing more research, I realized Jacques Vallée talks about holographic projections.
Yes.
J. Allen Hynek talks about holographic projections. John Keel and Raymond Fowler. Okay, these are 4 major researchers that have a different view of ufology than materialist ufology. All of them believe that what we're watching and the UFO phenomenon is a multidimensional phenomenon. But at that point, when I was having these experiences, I wasn't familiar with that. Okay.
Sure.
And now my friends all of a sudden, Ray, we got to go. We got businesses to run. Okay. We got to go. And this is like after only 15 minutes of watching this.
Crazy.
And in my mind, I didn't even, what do you think? What are you, crazy? We're watching a once in a lifetime experience. Okay.
Right.
Why are you leaving? So I didn't question it at all, because my mind was still under that influence, the mind control influence. Now, let me continue with what happened that day. So they leave, right? And then for another maybe 15, 20 minutes, my daughter and I are still watching these blinking orbs on and off, and then getting huge and getting small. And we were like just in awe. Okay. It was a light show that was being put for us, like the 4th of July. And so then all of a sudden I felt like I was being attacked by hundreds of mosquitoes. So I had shorts, white t-shirt, and I was slapping my arms. And so I grabbed my daughter and I said, come on, Shikaret, let's get out of here. These mosquitoes are killing me. So I grabbed her hand and we walked upstairs. So the door was her mother and our dog were right there in the front door. And our dog was the type of little dog that always barks and growls and fights, a Jack Russell Terrier. And, but she never went outside with all those people out there. And so I'm telling my ex-wife what happened. So my daughter turns around and looks up to me. She goes, Daddy, there were no UFOs. There were no mosquitoes out there. Okay. And all of a sudden, it's like the hypnotist snapped his finger. And I woke up. I was like, oh my God. So I ran downstairs. I got my camcorder, my professional camera, and I ran outside. Nothing was there. It was gone.
Of course.
So what I realized after that as well, another lesson, was that this intelligence has the ability to holographically project visually mosquitoes. Okay. And you being bitten, you feel the sensation. Okay. And so, but that was like later on after you digesting the situation. Okay.
Sure.
And so that was in August of 2012. And very important lessons learned from that day that I eventually siphoned it out as a thesis of.
They're just giving you the education little by little by little, right?
Much more complex.
Yeah.
Yes, little by little. They give you bits and pieces as
Yeah.
you move. The next piece, and again, what I'm telling everyone here, people are not going to believe me, but I really don't care. These are my experiences, you know, and there are literally thousands of people that I've spoken with all over the world that I've had comparable, all different experiences, but very comparable.
Oh, yes.
For example, I went to the conference with my friend Alberto Fernandez,
Yes.
who is a retired DEA federal agent. And I would put him as one of the top 3 major experiencers in the world. And but let me take you through the steps. And he's had everything in the kitchen sink. NDEs, OBEs, astral travel experiences. He's seen hundreds of different beings. He even went up to a UFO that was on the ground and actually touched it. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And there was no sensation there. Started off with 6 pots in brew back in. He's been brought to see God times, okay, and Jesus Christ. He's seen him 6 times. He's seen Virgin Mary twice, and he's not Catholic.
Wow.
And, anyway,
Wow.
let me continue with the story. So that same night when I got home, right, you're wired up. So you go to YouTube and you're typing, you know, UFOs and the paranormal. And then I saw a video on a near-death experiencer, their testimony. And I was like totally shocked. And I was like, oh my God. So I listened to another story of another NDE experiencer, then another. The whole night I was listening to stories from NDE experiencers. Okay. I didn't even care about UFOs anymore. It was like the NDE stuff. Then I went to Amazon. I ordered 20 used books from Amazon. Okay. And I started like 4 hours a day. And over the next 4 months, it went from 4 hours a day to 12 to 14 hours a day. Okay. And
wow,
when I was like 4 books left, I ordered 20 more. 4 books left, 20 more. I became an expert in near-death experiences. Okay. And all this time, for the next 4 months, I had never spoken to anyone about near-death experiences. Okay. My wife knew that I was reading all these books. And she was saying that I was insane. I'm crazy. I need to go to a psychiatrist to get medication. And mine, well, she herself has had tons of experiences as well. But, you know, I'm the one that needed to go to a shrink.
Of course.
And so for 4 months, I'd never told anyone about near-death experiences. And then let me explain. And a lot of people are not going to believe me when I tell them, okay. But 3 days in a row, December 21st, 2012, December 22nd, 2012, December 23rd, 2012. About 6 or 7 months later, when I was talking about this, someone told me, do you know the significance of December 21st, 2012?
Yeah,
I said, no.
I was just going to say.
And they said, oh, that's the Mayan calendar date, you know, Friday. Yeah, Friday. And today, I still don't really understand it fully. My understanding, it's like when our dimensions flip it was those 3 days. Okay.
Right.
And then the Friday, which was the first date. Okay. First day, I brought my daughter. She had a low-grade fever. And she said, well, to the pediatrician. And she's from Colombia, where I'm at right now. I'm retired in Colombia because everything is dirt cheap here. And
love it. And
compared
beautiful.
to the US. And so we were talking in Spanish, and she said, well, yes, beautiful. And she said, look, she has no temperature. I checked her ear, nose, and throat. I don't see anything. Maybe she had a 24-hour virus and it's gone. I said, okay. And then all of a sudden, a robotic voice came out of my mouth. And it was something like this. It was like, excuse me, doctor, have you ever heard the term near-death experiences? I've just finished reading approximately 300 books on this topic, and many were written by medical doctors such as yourself. So you need to become familiar with this. So
Whoa.
And immediately as I was saying this, I said, oh my God, I finally flipped. Tracy, another voice is
Yeah.
coming out of me, right? So the doctor's eyeballs pop out. I don't know why I said that. She goes, there's no need to apologize. How did you know I had one? And
Wow.
then
Ugh,
she closes the
that
door,
chills.
and my daughter was with me the whole time, the one that saw the UFOs. Then she goes and tells me her NDE. Okay, at the
Oh,
conference, I'll
no.
tell you the specific of what she told me. Okay,
Yeah.
and so that was Friday. Okay, the next day there was a social function at our local Catholic church for people that go to the Spanish Mass. Now
Mhm.
I had to attend the Spanish Mass because my ex-wife was Catholic, hardcore Catholic. Attend, and so we met. She was, and he worked at those individuals that take the MRIs and X-rays and things of that sort.
Mhm.
X-ray technician, MRI technician, and so and all of a sudden, excuse me, Max, have you ever heard of near-death experiences? I've just finished reading approximately 300 books on this topic, and it's a phenomenon that you need to know about. And then in my mind, I was like, Monday morning, I'm going to go see a psychiatrist. Okay.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
can't, no arguments. I'm going on Monday. Okay. Because I'm going crazy. Right. And so he told me about the near death experience. He said, Ray, I've never told this to anyone. Okay. A year ago, my mother died in my arms. And she told him, he was repeating what he told her. All of a sudden comes crashing through the door was this 6'3", heavy-set black man, followed by a short woman with blonde hair and a ponytail. And he goes, Mom, how do you know that? Those are the paramedics. I already told you. I was seeing and hearing everything, And then
Yet she
went
was
more into
dead.
details. Once she got to heaven, she saw her deceased husband, all of that. So that
Wow.
was Saturday, right? But for Sunday, I always visit my parents. My father is deceased now, but during that time period, he was very, very ill. He died about a year later. And so I said, I need to tell this to my father because he's like the Cuban Archie Bunker,
Oh,
He's
yes.
always,
Yeah.
goddamn this, goddamn that. He never went to church. Zero belief in any spirituality. And so I said, I said, help me get Pop dressed, so we can go outside to the patio. So we got him dressed. We helped him walk her. And so they sat down. So I told them what happened on Friday and what happened on Saturday. So this is now Saturday, right? And so he goes, that happened to me. And I was like, what?
Whoa.
And he goes on to tell me the most astounding NDE story that I've ever read. He had been gone for 20 to 30 years. So I asked him, what do you mean 20 or 30 years? He says, that's how long it took God to show me the good things out of my life and things. He had a life review that
Wow.
lasted 20 to 30 years.
Wow. But just a few minutes or a few
He
seconds.
saw his deceased parents, his brother, all like the age of 30.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so, and then there came a point. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. 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 I hear you. It's a little
Okay.
halting once in a while, but it's fine.
On
It's
my end,
coming through. It's great. Yeah.
Okay. And so then he told me God is pure love. There's no such thing as hell. That we're here to learn how to love. And I'm like, this is my father telling me this? Because after the heart surgery that he had, where he died on the operating table, he never talked, rarely talked, always staring to the TV, but not watching TV. And
Yeah.
and so after he finished, he just didn't want to talk anymore. So I kept on asking him questions. He didn't want to talk anymore. So then I told my mother, I said, Mom, did you ever hear of this? You know, I never knew about this. She says, one time after he came out of the heart surgery, he was hysterical, wanting me to tell me something. And she was like, go back to sleep, go back to sleep. He goes, no, but I need to talk to you. I need to go back. God damn it, I need to talk to you. And what it was, he was gone for 20 years. And he wanted to tell her what happened in those 20 years. And so she said, all those things that he told you. And then he went back to sleep. And she thought it was the anesthesia. Okay. Yeah. And she never asked him again. And
people explain that stuff away like that. And home, it doesn't make any sense.
I finally, it's like, it snapped it. Yeah. I finally understood why I was having that preparation of NDE experiences. And so I put down my windows. I looked at the stars, God, for the first time, a non-religious God, obviously. And so I told God, I said, I want to thank you because in a 4-month period, you managed to totally transform an atheist, a materialist, that I don't have a belief. I know you exist. And I have that knowingness more than any Catholic priest in Miami. And for that, I want to thank you. So since that day, yes, big difference. Since that day, I continue to talk to God. And just recently, over the last 2 years, I've made requests, specific requests from God. And guess what? They've all appeared.
Now this is
did you read about this in the book?
Yeah, in the book, it's incredible. And for those of you who have not read this book or have read some of the books that Rey has put out, A Greater Reality: One Man's Journey of Discovery. It is like my favorite book now. I've now read it twice, and every time I read it, there's more that keeps coming out. I get chills with every page. But this is what you were talking about in this book. You know, it's kind of an education and evolution of one man.
I had tons of experiences, but now I'm going to jump 12 years until about 2 years ago. I was here visiting my mother. I was living in Colombia, and it in my mind is I'm going to get a nice ring, but you know I just don't have thousands of dollars to spend on a nice ring. And so what I did is I wrote down 4 local pawn shops in the area. I wrote down the address, their telephone number. I said, tomorrow I'm going to go to these pawn shops and find me a nice cheap ring. Okay. And so I talked to God and I said, this is the first time I ever made a request to God, because before it was just communication. Mainly from my direction, not so much from him to me. But then I said, tomorrow I'm going to go to pawn shops. And can you help me find a good ring? Okay. Help me find a nice ring. So then the next day, I hear my mom screaming, Rey, Rey, Rey. And she was sitting on her bed. She had a tobacco box. That was where my grandfather kept his poems. So she would occasionally go and open up the tobacco box and read his poems. So she goes, look what was on top of the stack of poems. And I looked down, and it was the tobacco box with all his poems, and right on the top was this ring. And so,
wow.
I said, did my grandfather was up numerous times? Did you ever find the ring in there? No, no, never. Where did you find the ring? Just as you, right on top. I mean, I just called it right now. And so I looked at it. I said, I saw it was a men's ring. I said, can you, it was like a perfect fit.
Wow.
Okay. And then the ring is from 1962. It's a high school graduation ring from 1960 in this city in Puerto Rico. Okay. Now, my grandfather's, he's not in the United States in 1965, but yet this ring is from 1962. So
weird.
this is what you call an A-port.
An A-port, yes.
Okay.
Wow.
Now, friend, so chef with a just a month ago has lots of pictures of A-ports, but that's only 1% of the A-ports that he has.
Wow.
In his
Incredible.
home. This man is a major experiencer. So I had been dating a lot of ladies here, but my Spanish accent is not Colombian. And anyone that knows about Latin America country has a different accent. So once they heard my accent, this guy, oh, he's a gringo from the US, you know? So it's like, Ray, can you loan me $30? I'll do my hair. Ray, can you loan me? So as soon as they would say that, I would dump them, you know, because I wanted a relationship. I didn't
don't want to go bigger
for money.
Yeah.
So it was like a whole year of dating and dumping these ladies, you know? And so finally, I talked to God. I said, God, please help me. I've been here for more than a year, and I want a life partner. Someone that I could live the rest of my life with, to share my love with her, and she in turn with me. I'm a very loving and caring person, and I don't care whether she's ugly, beautiful, fat, you know, skinny, whatever, short or tall. I just want to find a good woman. That's it, right?
A real partner.
The next day, I met this beautiful woman that worked at a cash register, but she was so young. And I said, how old are you? She goes, I'm 23 years old. I said, oh my God, it's the age of my daughter, you know. But look, you know, I'm here alone. I'm a good person. I want to find someone to get to know. But it has to be a good woman, you know, a good person.
Right.
And I said, you must an aunt, a cousin, a relative, you know, sister, somebody that you could find for me, right? Well, the next day, I got a text message from a lady who's now my wife.
Wow.
And we met and we started dating, but it was as we were friends for 3 months.
Cool.
Not once. I said, well, I'm going to wait till she asks me for money. Okay. Once she asked me for money, I'm going to dump. She never did. Okay. And she's the most loving person in life. Yep. She's the real deal, and a very loving and caring person. And so, I like 12 there. in all this. In the meantime, I had tons of other experiences. One other experience in terms of UFO related, I had been calling down UFOs. There wouldn't be these little orbs that would appear. Okay.
Yeah.
It was these monstrosities. Never physical, except for once, but these light shows that would be right on top of me, similar to what I was saying before. And I really don't do signs because it's, to me, it's like it's lame. They're on that. You know, calling it because my other experiences have been so much more profound than that.
Yes.
One time I did bring a group from Miami up to Dade City, Florida, of the home of this attorney, Florida attorney.
Yeah, it's a mutual friend
from Princeton University. His name is Mike Merber. Okay,
Mike,
and he has E5 every month. But we went there in February, and it was freezing cold. So everybody left, and that was locally. And then he had a huge two houses, so everyone else went into their bedrooms. And all of a sudden, it was 12:30, And you might know what this feels like, but it was like, go outside, go outside. I said, hell no,
Oh,
I
yeah.
ain't going outside. Go outside, go outside. I said, no way. And it was like, go outside now.
So
I've got tons of
compelling.
those things.
Me too.
And you learn to obey them.
You do.
Yes, you learn to
Because
obey them.
you
And so
always
I
get
said, okay,
rewarded.
I got dressed up. I went outside. Yeah. You always get something's going to happen, So I said,
Yeah.
okay, something's going to happen. And so I went outside, and Mike Merberg with two other people were looking towards the south. That's where like a big open field is. And so I joined them, and he had a huge camera, one of those big, gigantic film cameras. You can get a little ant
Right.
on top of that's how powerful this thing was. It was like a telescope camera. So I was looking to the north, and the way I do it, where I call down aerial phenomenon, because that's what it is.
Yes. Yes, and we had a little glitch there. So your term for it is conscious aerial phenomena.
Started in a little area looking north. We're looking far, far away, very far away. So it was huge, was coming at us. And I said, hey, Mike, you guys, is very, very low to Yes.
Yeah, I'm still hearing you. We get a little glitch every once in a while, but just keep talking. It's coming over fine. Oh, as soon as I said that, I lose you.
Yeah, it says having trouble with the connection.
Yeah.
So basically, I call it, I've used this term in all of my books. After my very first book, Beyond, I call it CAP,
yes.
Consciousness Arial Phenomena, because these objects are perceived as material, from a physicalist perspective, but they're not. These are consciousness projections. And it would take several of these video calls to be able to explain that in detail. But hopefully at the conference, I can do that. And so it was very, very low to the ground. This huge, gigantic light was getting closer, closer, closer. Very slow speed, very slow speed. And then it was getting bigger, bigger, bigger than us. And then all of a sudden, when it was at the perfect angle, it wasn't right on top of us, but it was at a perfect angle, like at 10 o'clock, okay? It went like this. You hear me?
Yeah.
It was an object that was the size of 2 school buses, approximately. And it was cylindrical in shape, had rounded edges on the cylinder, and pure physical. It was like silverish color, like the moon, but very bright silverish color. And it was very, very slow. It made that almost impossible sharp turn right in front of us. And then Merberg had this huge video camera. If there was an ant on top of that, all of us had cameras and cell phones. Because remember, this thing was a huge object. It was less than 100 feet above us. Okay.
Wow.
This wasn't a little orb. Okay.
Yeah.
And so none of us took our cell phones out.
Typical, right? You don't even
pictures
think about
or video.
Yeah.
Just like outside of my house.
Yeah.
Outside of my house. And so he then said, oh, it's on the west coast of Florida, right? So then in my mind, yes, it must be a secret military plane. And so all of us, yes, it must be a secret military plane. All of us and all of our minds got that projection that it wasn't what we were watching. It was now, mind you, this thing had no wings.
Yeah.
It had no
propulsion system. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Had no windows. But yet, as I said earlier, the ability to project into your mind these thought patterns.
Yeah.
For people that are accustomed to our five senses. So, but these were thoughts that were projected into our mind. So that's the only time I've seen a large physical.
I can't tell you how many. I can't tell you how many times I have been with groups or myself with great equipment, and none of it'll work.
50 UAPs that were virtual was alone. Between all these years, we're just tons of experience involving shadow beings, out of body experiences, astral travel experience. They will usually be in, 8 days in a row. This is the next major experience. I was driving my car to go to work in downtown Miami, in the middle of a traffic jam.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't in my car anymore. I was pure mind.
Wow.
Everything was pitch black, and then all of a sudden I'm starting to see, and I realized that fulcrum, the very center of 3D vision, inside each of the spokes of the wheel were what I call a different contact modality. I can't see you, Deb. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you and see you. It's still glitching a little, but it's okay. We're still getting it. So you had this vision of a wheel with all of these different spokes, and each spoke was a different contact modality.
Okay. And so, yes, I was, yes. And inside each spoke was it, go ahead.
No, I'm listening. Each spoke was
inside each spoke was a video, but what accompanied it was a massive download.
I see. Yeah.
And it was a download about each of the different modalities. And this one was near-death experiences, and it explained to me the details of the NDE. The next one was out-of-body experiences, which is different from astral travel experiences, and then astral travel experiences. And it explained remote viewing, where with your mind you're able to see things, but you're only seeing it in the fifth dimension. Okay, you're interacting with our 4D reality. Okay,
right.
Because when you go out of body, you see your body underneath you, for example.
Exactly.
And so you're not in that dimension of the 3 dimensions of coordinate geometry, and then fourth dimension is reality. That's an OBE and remote viewing as well.
Yes.
But then once you have an astral travel experience, you pierce that veil, of that fifth dimension, and then you're into these higher dimensional planes. And then it's said that the near-death experience is you're now hitting to source. You're in the last dimension. Where source is that. So when you're given a life review, you're being shown your the good things you've done, the bad things, and also your past life experience. That these are all now at the mind of God level. Okay.
Wow.
And so I was shown all of that, and then how it works, and then the whole system, how it interacts with each other. And what I was basically told was that consciousness is fundamental, which is our greater reality, is our true reality, not this perceived reality. This is just, and and then and then I was given the details of all of that. And then I was as separate and distinct. But in reality, they're not. It's of
No,
consciousness. And
they're all
I
connected.
was told how that works. Yeah.
Amazing. And so this is how you came
All
up with
interconnected.
the contact modalities concept.
Then I was given very specific instructions of what I needed to do. Same evening when I got home, I got an email from Mary Rodwell. Okay, who an email that I sent to her 6 months ago was up in cyberspace. So if you ever do interview Mary Rodwell, she in turn had been working with this professor of astrophysics, Dr. Rudy Shield,
Yes.
with experiencers that have gotten downloads of contact to Mary's like 1:30 that morning. And I said, look, Mary, I got to go to work the next morning because she's in Australia. And so then the very next day, this is literally 24 hours after my astral travel experience, in the middle of that traffic jam, I get a phone call. Hello, is this Hernandez? Yes, who is? Dr. Rudy Shields. Who? May I tell you I was going to call? No. Oh, I'm an emeritus professor of astrophysics at Harvard University. And I was a very close friend of the late Dr. John Mack. You know, and then he goes on to detail his life. And so then he said, can you tell me what happened to you? And I told him in detail, not like I've just mentioned right now, but the details of that experience. And he said, Ray, what you got was a download of Dr. Edgar Mitchell's quantum hologram theory of consciousness.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'd heard of Edgar Mitchell. I was reading all of the books, videos. I know that Edgar Mitchell was very prominent.
Yes.
Pretty much the only astronaut about UFOs, and that the government needs to talk about those. And so he said, look, Ray, write down this telephone number. So I wrote down the telephone number. And he said, this is my mentor. So I said, who's your mentor? He goes, Dr. Edgar Mitchell.
Man.
And so he said that he wants to work with me, that he might volunteer to accomplish the mission, the tasks that I was given. Okay. So I'm thinking this man's a nut job. Okay. Because I still hadn't processed
Dr. Rudy Shield. Oh my gosh.
information.
Yeah.
So then I called Edgar. He invited me to his home the very next day. So within 48 hours, I was at the home of Edgar Mitchell. Yeah.
Unreal.
So I was at the home of Dr. Edgar Mitchell within 48 hours after my astral travel experience, where I was given all this information. So I was put in contact with Mary Rodwell, Dr. Rudy Shields, and Edgar Mitchell. The four of us are the co-founders of the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Free Foundation. So again, this is not a it's not a synchronicity.
No.
Within
not an accident. Yeah. All designed.
Yeah, it was just, with it was all orchestrated. I call it orchestrated events.
Yes.
It was
much better term.
Pre-planned, orchestrated events. And then at the home of Edgar Mitchell was we had for 6 hours. I eventually at his home more than clothing, all the different days that I went up there to see him.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a mentor. He taught me tons of stuff. He was also the founder of the Institute of Noetic Sciences.
Yes.
And this is now the world's leading academic research institute on consciousness.
Yes.
Director of IONS, the Institute of Noetic Sciences, and who's a good friend of mine, who also believes, like I do, that consciousness is primary and that all the contact modalities needs to be studied as one integrated phenomenon. That's Dr. Dean Radin. And so then what happened was that I thought this man was a crazy man, Edgar Mitchell and Rudy Shields, because I still don't
Great.
understand
Yeah.
what was happening to me, the information I was given, the mission that I was given. I was told that you need to inform humanity of the relationship between us, the spirit world, and consciousness. Okay.
Wow.
Later on, I deciphered what each of those terms were. Okay. And I said, Edgar, I have no idea what happened. And he said, Ray, you'll figure it out. It always works that way.
Yes.
Like a wise sage. So when I got home, that's Saturday, I woke up and I had a download of what we're supposed to do. Okay. And let me just explain what a contact modalities should be studied as one phenomenon. Okay.
Yes.
The NDE phenomenon, there have been tons of academic scientific publications on near-death experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Research. Dr. Bruce Grayson.
Yes.
Bruce Grayson at the University of Virginia. And then more recently, over the last 30 years, Dr. Jeffrey Long,
Yes.
who's an oncologist. He's published 3 books on NDEs.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of data, lots of academic publications. With OBEs, the Robert Monroe Institute has published a lot of papers on the
Absolutely.
OBE phenomena. Lots of research.
And they teach the
Tom
process.
Campbell, who wrote a book for
Mhm.
volume 1 of our Greater Reality
Of the
book
series.
Major.
Right.
Yes, teach how to do it. So he wrote a book about my theory of everything and body experience from a scientific perspective.
Yeah.
And so remote viewing, you had the Stanford Research Institute that had published papers in the late 1800s with William James.
Right.
So numerous research out there on the various contact modalities. But when it came to UFO contact research, there was nothing.
Nothing academic, really.
Nothing. You had nothing academic. You had David Jacobs and Bud Hopkins, who were pre-selecting people to hypnotize, and they had a negative view of all this phenomena. So they took the people that were the most traumatized. They came up with a theory that these aliens are coming here to Earth. They were, first of all, physical humanity, collecting sperm, continue to hybridize humanity.
Yeah.
So that's the type of mumbo jumbo that was circulating in the UFO field for over 30 years. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was nothing. So what we did, what I woke up that morning, Saturday morning, it was like it was a detailed, synthesis of what we needed to do. So I typed it all out, came out to 6 pages. Okay. So I typed it all out. I sent it to Edgar Mitchell, Rudy Shields, and Mary Rodwell. And all of a sudden, oh my God, Ray, this is unbelievable. So what it was how do we conduct the world's first comprehensive, academic, worldwide statistical research study on UFO contact experiencers? And then they loved it. And they said, and I said, well, why don't we all partner up and work together as a team? And they all agreed. So then everyone started bringing in different people into the organization. So eventually, from the people that you followed, we had Kathleen, we had Barlam, we had Leo Sprinkle, Rosemary Ellen Guiley, whose main focus was on the paranormal. Okay? And then for academics, we had about 6 or 7 PhD academics that joined us as well. So then we spent together many months. How do you do this? And then we came up with 3 surveys. 2 of them were quantitative, 700 questions. Okay. And one was qualitative, which was an open-ended question survey that had 70 questions. So we came up with 400 350 people from over 125 countries that responded to our surveys. So it was a huge number. And what happened? All of our data findings pretty much contradicts everything that's circulating in ufology.
Yep.
Everything.
And no surprise to me.
And so that's was all published. No surprise for experiencers. It's no surprise.
Yeah.
But for people that are these hardcore materialists, once they saw the term that we have in our book is titled "Beyond UFOs: The Science of Consciousness and Contact with Non-Human Intelligence." So once they saw the term consciousness, they immediately, no, that's woo-woo science. That's not real science.
Crazy.
Because they're material. They have
they're not resonating with it yet. Yeah.
No idea what consciousness or consciousness, anything to do with the paranormal. No, they're still not ready for it. But ufology is slowly changing. But what I'm doing since that first book, which was published in 2018, we started the research in 2013. And then in 2018, we published that book. So after that publication, no one showed an interest in that book.
Wow.
Why? Because ufology, a materialist, has a agenda. If you think differently, that these are not physical UFOs, you're a crazy nutjob. They're not interested.
I know.
If you're arguing that the UFO crafts, perceived crafts, are not actually a real physical craft, then you're totally useless to these people.
Yeah.
Okay? If you're talking about non-human intelligence, they throw you out. It has nothing to do with, if you're talking about the paranormal, no. So I argue that the whole tradition of UFO research has thrown out the baby with the bathwater.
I agree.
Because the baby is what we're just talking about. It's the experiencer. It's contact with non-human intelligence. It's the paranormal and all the paranormal phenomenon that goes associated with UFO contact. But historically, they've thrown all that out. So what do? You get crap. You get bullshit.
Yeah. It's the whole concept
of I've taken you all the way through the book Beyond UFOs.
Yeah. Which was by the way, it was the only thing I asked for Christmas that year. So you had one person who really was interested, at least, and I love the book. But we talk about confirmation bias. If you have something in your mind, then you look around at everything, and it everything you look at matches your paradigm until you have some kind of pattern interrupt in your mind that breaks it open and makes you understand more. So what I'm seeing with all the people that I work with is, first, they come to this subject with confirmation bias, sculpted by our cultural, right? By Hollywood, by the government, by military, by mainstream, whatever. Over time, though, especially in the last few years, the last couple of years, it's starting to shift. And I think that's where the light is going to come in, and people are going to see you now and perceive your work and come after your work. I think you're a man ahead of your time, as Dr. Mitchell was, and as Rudy Shield, and all of the people who are integrated into this beautiful group that you work with. But it's taken a time for people to shift in their confirmation bias to finally, there's a little bit of light, and they're starting to say, oh, there's something else I need to look at. And here is this library of work now that is just ready for them. And that's how I feel about it anyway. So.
Yeah, no, it really is. That's why the title of our Greater Reality book series has the term "A New Paradigm." Yes. And that's what it is. It's a paradigm. It's a new worldview, new way of viewing our reality.
It truly is. And you are on the forefront of cutting edge stuff. Go ahead. I know we
No,
have
what I
a
was going
delay.
to say is then let me take yes, let me take the audience members through that transition where I'm at now.
Yes. Go right ahead.
Okay. Um, after after Beyond UFOs, I was invited to a few small UFO conferences. Um, Most of them were experiencer conferences, but I was never invited to any of the major UFO conferences because my views were just too radical, and the data from a research study was just too radical. For example, the International UFO Conference,
Yeah.
the Roswell UFO Conference. Okay, these are strict materialist organizations,
Sure.
and so what I did is I said, okay, we need to transition because people were thinking that what we were doing was UFO related to compare all of the paranormal, all of the contact modalities. But we needed to get data on UFO contact experiencers. So we then could compare it with NDE, OBE, astral travel, remote viewers. People see ghosts and spirits, hallucinogenic journeys, et cetera, et cetera. We needed that data from the UFO contactee field. And so what I said, look, I need to correct this. So what I did is I reconstituted a new organization called the Consciousness and Contact Research Institute, CCRI. And what I did, we invited mainly researchers and medical doctors, because in order to get credibility, people has to view what we're doing as academic and credible.
Exactly.
And so, well, I began a series of bi-monthly meetings every 2 months, every 3 months, of these major names, brilliant thinkers. And if you look at volume 1 and volume 2, you'll see a whole who's who and the contact modalities.
Oh, yeah.
People like, for example, Jeffrey Mishloff, Dean Radin, Dr. Gary Schwartz, okay, and the list goes on and on and on. Raymond Moody, Dr. Eben Alexander, Dr. John Alexander, okay. I could go on and on naming names, okay. All of these people, all of them, believe that number one, consciousness is primary and not our physical reality. Secondly, they all believe that all of the contact modalities needs to be studied as one integrated phenomena, not a separate phenomenon. So we started having these group meetings, and so they said, okay, let's form a publication. We'll submit an article. You can publish it under the group umbrella, and we'll go into different themes. For example, one theme was the theme of what is consciousness. Okay, like about 8 articles discussing what is consciousness from the perspective of the researchers in our group. Then we had a separate section titled the quantum hologram theory of consciousness. That's Dr. Gamish's specific theory. And we had 5 articles on that. Then we had articles on death experiences and the level of consciousness. Okay. And then out-of-body experiences, astral travel experiences, ghosts and spirits, hallucinogenic journeys. So we had experts in those fields that wrote articles, theoretical articles, academic articles. And that's contained in volume 1 and volume 2 of our A Greater Reality book series. And then also that took quite a while to do. This is not an easy task. That took several years to do. And then I said, okay, I want to be able to collect the experiencers of the contact modalities. These are individuals that have at least 3 different contact modalities. And we want to hear from their mouth, okay, what are their experiences? So like that, it's not just theory anymore. It's praxis. It's here's real life person that's having NDEs, they're seeing Sasquatch, they're seeing UFOs. So what we put is in volumes 1, an example, we had, Yes, most major experiencers. We
Yeah.
put in there Dr. Melinda Greer, who is still a working medical doctor of the Children's Hospital.
Yeah.
And so she's had 2 NDEs. After her second NDE, which is the most profound of the 2, she reunited with Source.
Yes.
Dr. Melinda Greer no longer existed. She was just a soul that was interacting with other deceased intelligences. My preferred term is individuated unit of consciousness. Okay?
Yes,
And
I
that's
love
the
that.
term by Tom Campbell, the astral traveler. Oh yeah, and so anyway, she's had after her second NDE in her hospital, she began to see dead people, ghosts, spirits, going through walls, flying right in front of her. Okay. She's had 3 Sasquatch experiences. One which lasted most of the night. Okay. Very physical, right in front of you. She's seen 4 of the entire sky, blocked out all the stars.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's had astral travel experiences, which is literally taken out of her body, shown these other realities, and then boom, brought right back. And many other types of experiences, paranormal experiences. And so we had her as an introduction in one of the theoretical chapters. But then volumes 3, 4, and 5, and I'm currently writing volume 6, are individuals that are writing their individual stories.
Yeah.
And volume 6 is going to be very, very powerful. We're going to have my friend Alberto is finally writing down his experiences. We have another medical doctor, retired medical doctor, a woman who's had some incredible experiences, including 2 NDEs, seeing UFOs, et cetera, et cetera. We have this elderly man. He's a lieutenant colonel in the National Guard. And I met him at the Arkansas, at the Ozark Mountain UFO conference. And he literally blew me away. Here's this 80-year-old man talking about being swallowed up by snakes, you know. And,
Wow.
it was all like shamanic type of experiences, and many other experiences. And so, so
I'm still in the middle of writing mine to send to you. It's taking you forever.
Go to our website.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm waiting for it.
I know. It's coming.
People can go to our website. It's agreaterreality.com.
Yes. Yes.
And to get a peek of all of these books. And then if you want to send me an email, people can go to Contact Modalities at gmail.com. Contact Modalities at gmail.com. And that goes directly to me, and I will answer. I will give you free copies of my most recent book, one that I sent you.
Wow. And that's the other incredible thing, Ray, and for the audience, Ray has now made available all of this work for free if you ask for it. I do encourage people to buy their own copies, because if you're like me, I have dog ears and notes, and I keep going back and underlining more things. But the fact that you have done, this incredible body of work, it's academic research and stories and all of this, and you're giving it away free, it tells me that you're a soul that is just pure love. And that's the main message of all the contact modalities. Don't you agree? The consciousness is just about learning to love one another.
Yeah. Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes. All these experiences are, we need to learn how to love, because that's the key ingredient for us as beings in this physical reality. We're here to learn how to love, but that's the most difficult task for humanity.
It is. Well, Ray, the other thing I wanted to say really quickly, so we, don't run out of time, but is to let people know that not only have you this beautiful, most recent book, A Greater Reality, One Man's Journey of Discovery, now it's been made into a film. And that's coming out very soon, is it not?
Oh, yes. Yes, yes. If you go to our website, agreaterreality.com, all one word, agreaterreality.com. Towards the end of our website at the bottom, you will see a trailer. Click on
Mhm.
that link, and it's only 3 minutes, and you will see tons of PhD academics, medical doctors, and tons of experiencers. And
Yeah.
what we're trying to show, just like all of my book series, that consciousness is fundamental, that all of the paranormal needs to be studied as one interesting phenomenon. And it's being done from an experience perspective, not from a
Mm.
frightful perspective, because these are spiritually transformative experiences.
Oh, it's so exciting that this film's coming out. I cannot wait for it. And I'll even include it in the final production of this video somewhere so that people can see it right
It froze
away.
up again. I don't know
It's okay. It's still
if you're able
going.
to hear me.
Yes, I hear you. Ray, one last thing before we go. I want to mention
Okay.
again that you're going to
And
be
so, yeah,
on.
I encourage
Go ahead.
everyone, go to our website.
Go ahead.
Yes, yes. And I'm going to be at the conference, the Contact Modalities Expo, and I just want to on May the 2nd to the 4th in
Right.
Wisconsin. And I think you have the information scrolling underneath. And
I do.
just to remind your audience members that I coined that term, the contact
Yes.
modalities, in 2013. And so I
Yeah.
was surprised when Melissa called me. She had no idea that I had coined this term. She just knew
Unreal.
that I was an experiencer and I had written books, and she really didn't know much else about me. And so once I told her what I had written and that I'm both an experiencer and a research, then she was interested in inviting me up there. But
Right.
what I want to tell folks is that um, I'm not going to talk much about my personal experiences because
Right.
personal experiences are a dime a dozen. There's
Hmm.
hundreds of major experiences that are out there. So I'm just going to highlight some key aspects of my experiences like I did today. But basically, since 2012 until today, I'm still having experiences. Okay.
So,
But to me, the experience is not so much important to convey. What's important to convey is the whole thesis behind the phenomenon and the complexities behind the phenomenon. That's what I want to convey in our lecture.
I can't wait. It's going to be an amazing presentation, and I'm just so honored that we get to actually share the same stage. I just still can't believe it. My mind is blown that I get to meet you in person. But I want to ask you just one more question, Ray, before we go. It's one that I ask everybody on this show. If you could share one message or insight from your journey with our listeners, the one truth you feel humanity needs most right now, what is that message?
I think that the message is that we need to change as a species. We need to become more loving, more caring. We need to protect our environment, protect planet Earth. And if we don't abide by these warnings, we're going to self-exterminate our species
Mm-hmm.
of our own free will. We're killing each other. We're killing our species. It might not be an annihilation, but be a great thinning of humanity. And so I think that's inevitable
Mm-hmm.
that we've taken, that we can correct that. So, but if we can still continue to preach, we need more loving, more caring, more protect each other and our planet because it's all one system.
Right.
Once we learn that, then, might be a path towards change, but I seriously doubt it. I'm not optimistic.
Yeah. Well, we do have a lot of help. So that gives me hope. Look at all the help that you've had in the last, 23 years with this. I've had it my whole life. I know people who are,
Since
waking up.
2012,
2012, that's right. So 13 years, excuse me. Gosh, it just seems like all of that compressed into such a small time. But it tells me that your job is gigantic. And I just want to say thank you for taking it on, because I don't know that I would be able to do what you've done. I probably would have said, are you kidding me? I've already got enough to do, with the work that I'm doing. But you just jumped in and you continued to work.
Yeah, it's been, I mean, it's been a call. And actually, it was a calling because they told me to do very specific things.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been doing that. And then I've had help along the way from these groups, these masters, except these are masters that are physical, they're human beings. And plus, something which I never talked about, and you probably read it in my book, I've had help from a physical master, which I rarely talk about, which is a non-human intelligence that's physical.
Yes. Which is mind-blowing in and of itself.
It's in
beautiful.
my book. And I was debating whether to include that. What I am.
Oh, I'm so glad you did.
Why I'm here, what I'm doing here. Yeah.
I'm very glad you did.
And
more
it just
people
shows
like
the
you.
complexities.
Yes. And people will recognize themselves in your story or in any of these books. I mean, I really highly recommend that people get these books, because there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stories of real people just telling what they've experienced, and you will see yourself in these books. It's incredible. And you won't feel alone anymore, or you won't feel crazy. It's beautiful. So I think with that, I'll just,
once you read these stories, you realize,
we're not alone.
Yeah.
So
we're not alone. And then you realize that there's many, many people. They're not having the same experience that you're having, because it's all different. But you can relate to them, and you realize that, look, I'm not crazy. All my life I've been having these things. I'm not crazy. Look at all these other people, a doctor, medical doctor, Ph.D. professors, academics are having these things. And then you realize that, hey, it's the reality that we live. It's not what we perceive it to be. It's much more complex.
Right. Well, Ray, thank you so much, my dear. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. I can't wait to get this out there so everybody can see it, and I'll let you know right away. But just one more time, and we'll attach this to the video as well. But one more time, please tell people how they can get in touch with you and access all of this information. Oops, I think maybe Ray froze up for good at this point.
Yeah.
Could you tell people
froze up. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Can you tell people how to get in touch with you one more time? Yes.
Okay. First of all, my email is contactmodalities@gmail.com. Contactmodalities@gmail.com. The same name as the conference. And then the website is agreaterreality.com. agreaterreality.com. And I look forward to seeing everyone. If you can make it to the conference, if not, send me an email. At least check out the website.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait. It's just a couple of weeks away. I highly encourage everyone to get a ticket, because you will not have this many esteemed people in this vast topic together in one place very often. And you will probably very seldom have the person who literally coined the term contact modalities, who knows everything about all of it, there to speak to in person. But for now, Ray, I want to say thank you for being one of those hidden variables that makes our world such an incomparably beautiful place, and the work that you're doing to bring love to the world and enlightenment really to the world. Thank you so much for that. And for all of you listening, Please share this video. Please go to agreaterreality.com and access this material. And we hope to see you at the Contact Modalities Expo, May 2nd through 4th in Delavan, Wisconsin. And so we'll say goodbye for now. I always end with a Mayan saying that is this, in Lakesh, it means I am another you. Thanks so much, Ray.
Thank you.